Hello and welcome to another video from Ellensburg Amplifier Repair and Service. My name's Todd, and today we have what we can see here, a CAB22 board. Let me get everything into view here for you. There we are. So this CAB22 board, I've already repaired it. It had some shorted output filtering capacitors. So I got that replaced, and sometimes if you guys are working on these CAB22s, you might find that when you fire it up, you have anywhere from a 300 hertz to 500 hertz signal that you're going to get on the output section here. That's a real high pitch whine. Sorry for the glitch on the cameras too. It does not like to run both the scope and the other camera at the same time with the main camera. So I do apologize for that. But I wanted, and you may hear my dog snoring in the back. And of course, excuse the mess. So I just wanted to go over with you guys on how to resolve this 3 to 500 hertz issue on these CAB22s. And I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to really get down in here. Let me see what I can do here for you guys. Let me get right down in on this board. And let me get to the output section here. Kind of hard to see. That's why I've been complaining about my camera setups forever, because I want to be able to show you guys what I'm working on. So we're just going to kind of dig right down on in here. Let's see if this thing will focus in on what I want to focus in on. Probably not. Maybe a little manual focus. Yeah, okay. Hold on, guys. Let me see if I can get this thing to focus in on where I want to show you. Where is my focus control? There it is. Focus. I don't know if I can, but we're going to try. Okay, that's a little bit better. So the 3 to 500 hertz signal that you're going to be hearing sometimes on these amplifiers is, I do believe, part of the feedback circuit or the error amplifier. I don't have access to schematics for this particular amplifier, but I have done so many of these. As you can see, I got a pile of them sitting over here, and I've got more down here, and I've got 6 more cases behind me. So sorry for my dogs again. But I have found that this capacitor right here, this 104, you'll find you have a square wave from your feedback on one side, and you're going to have a really kind of a the square wave's going to have a slope to it. It's really an odd signal. Let me go ahead and fire this thing up and show you guys what I'm seeing on this. Red light, blue light. There's that signal I'm talking about. So you guys can see that it's about, if I can trigger in on it, about 575 hertz. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you guys. On one side, you're going to have your square wave, and on the other side, a real jagged square wave. And the last board I did, I changed this 104 capacitor, and it decided to start working normally. So we are going to do that again and see if we can change that. And the reason why I have found that to be the issue is I used heat. You can use heat and it'll change the frequency There it goes. Yeah, we're up to 600 hertz. So it'll climb in frequency as you heat that capacitor up. So we're going to go ahead and replace that capacitor. Let me discharge the rails on this because the rails do stay charged. Ain't nothing like some good sparks on good old video. Again, that's why I always state, please guys, if you're working on amps, there is enough current voltage here that could give you a bad day. Sorry, my hot air gun here. I'll let that cool down. But that's the capacitor that I'm after. Let me grab a donor board here. I have a donor board. And I'm going to go ahead and take the 104 off the donor board. So I can do this here without damaging anything. So excuse the noise here for just a minute. And I have found some boards are labeled and some boards are not labeled when it comes to the component values used on the amplifier itself. So this board has no labeling. This board does. This board here says 104 right next to that capacitor. And that's how I knew what the value was. Because before I was just having to use donor boards and just swap the capacitors over, but these on some of these they are identified as 104s, which is what, a 0.1 microfarad. Or is that 100 nanofarads or 100,000 picofarads? And of course, we're gonna fire up the Hacko here and solder that in place. As soon as I find my solder again. And we're going to solder this capacitor back in place. Without cooking it. Oh, sorry guys, I've been battling a cold for a while, and it hasn't been very fun. And just a touch of flux. I like it when my solder flows nice and clean, so I use the Amtech flux. Flow that back in place. Now I'm going to let that cool down just a little bit. It's not going to be very hot originally, but I'm just going to let it cool down just a little, because again, remember, temperature does affect the frequency. And then hopefully, if this was like the other board, that signal should be gone. We should be in the kilohertz. I think like 100 kilohertz, I think is what you're going to find. So let's go ahead and fire this back up. Make sure I'm not hot. Yeah, it's a little warm. And see what it does. Oh, nope. Wasn't that capacitor. Boo. Well, it was a good try. Dang it. Okay, now I'm back. Okay, so about this 500 hertz on the output of these CAB22 amplifiers. Coming back to this, sorry, I had to take a little step away there for a second. So this 104 capacitor right here, which is what, 0.1 microfarad, or you're going to have a 100 nanofarad capacitor. If you get your amplifier rebuilt and you fire it up and you find that you've got 500 hertz on your output, which you'll know because you're going to hear it, it's about 3 volts peak to, I think peak to peak it was, RMS. Then you're going to want to go back to this capacitor. Now this capacitor, sometimes in the past what I'd do is I'd replace that and it'd work fine, but underneath this capacitor there is a via from this side, I do believe, to ground. I haven't traced it out, but you will find that sometimes you're going to have an intermittent problem. Let me I'm going to fire up the scope. So to do that, I'm going to have to turn off my overhead cameras, guys. So just bear with me real quick here as I fire up the scope and show you. I think I can try to show you. Oh yeah, before you saw that it had the 500 hertz on the output. I had to remember where I left off. So what we're going to do is we're going to fire up this scope, and I'm going to show you where to go to fix this problem. Okay, scope should be up. Yeah, nice. So sorry guys, you can't see my great person here. I had to shut one camera off to run another. Not camera to run another camera, but to run the scope. So let's go ahead and fire up this amp now. I'm going to put my scope on the positive terminal, speaker terminal. And remember before, you guys were able to see that I had about 500 hertz on the output at about 3 volts RMS. So now we're going to go ahead and fire this up. And you'll see on the scope the value it should be, which should be about 100. If I could signal in on this so that you can see the scope settings now. And you're right at 50 kilohertz, which is good. I mean, that's better than the 500 hertz that you're going to get on the output. You're not going to hear this on a speaker. So now I just saw that glitch again. What's going on? Computers. So you guys saw me replace this capacitor, and then sometimes the amp will work fine, sometimes it won't. And I have never really, I always thought it was a bad capacitor. As a matter of fact, you know, we got a capacitor here, I've got another capacitor here, because I work on so many CAB22s. But there's a reason why after replacing it sometimes the amp will work fine again. And I'm going to show you where to look. Again, this is on a CAB22. This is not going to be consistent with the CAB45 or any other CAB board, I don't think. But you're going to find this on the CAB22s. Sorry for any outside noise. Street sweepers going by. So, I just turned it off. Let's turn the power off and discharge the rails. As you guys know, I'm always a big component about safety. A little pop there on the positive rail, a little pop, or I'm sorry, the negative rail, a little pop on the positive rail. Oh, this red, oh, you guys can't see me. This red lead that I use to discharge my rails is connected to ground. I just discharge rails because I don't want to get caught up in between it. Now let's go ahead and flip this board over and show you. Oh, my autofocus is off. Sorry guys, I'm not the greatest video recorder in the world. My goal is just to show you guys what you need to be looking for. Focus, we're going to put her back to auto there. What to look for when it comes to repairing these boards. When you have issues that you just can't narrow down. Leave that up to us that work on these every single day to be able to tell you guys where to go directly. So I'm going to go ahead and turn the scope off so as I can resume my video, normal video. Okay, hey guys, I'm back again. So on these CAB22s, as I've said 100 times now, let's go ahead and flip this over and show you what they have done at the factory to resolve this issue. Because I think it was an oversight in the engineering of this board, and I have mentioned this prior to the owner. I think he's the owner. I've mentioned this to Audio Apex about the grounding issue of the feedback circuit. I think it's feedback circuit. It's either feedback circuit or it's an error amplifier. I have not dug deep enough to be able to really tell you guys. My goal is to get these in, get them repaired, and get them out. So, phone's ringing. Give me 2 seconds, guys. All right, sorry about that, guys. I'm back. I had to take care of a phone call. Now I have to regain my thoughts. Where was I? Oh, the 500 hertz. So you guys saw that now we don't have that 500 hertz, but the capacitor that controls that feedback or error amplifier portion of the circuit, what they did is, if you look at the bottom side of the CAB22 board, you're going to find a little solder spot here. You know, and I've always wondered why there was a solder spot there. You'd see flux here. You can see where they had done some work underneath. Well, what they did is they jumped there's a via that goes up to that capacitor, comes through the board, but goes nowhere. So I think what they did is they missed the trace of the ground here going to the via to that capacitor. And that's why on all these CAB22s, I don't know if they're all CAB22s, and maybe some revisions, you're going to see a little solder blob here that they put in. What they did is they just grounded that via to that capacitor, which solves the issue. So anytime you're doing work on the preamp section, let me flip this back over for you guys. Anytime you're doing work on the preamp section here and you're using hot air, I would watch and make sure that you don't desolder the via of this capacitor going down to ground, because this capacitor here needs to be grounded. Otherwise, you're going to get the 300 hertz to 500 hertz on the output. Again, that's a 100 nanofarad capacitor. The right-hand side of the capacitor gets soldered to ground underneath, and I did verify this with other boards. Other boards are the same situation. Let's see here. Do we have, what revision is this? Okay, so this board here has no markings. This looks to be a newer revision. And that capacitor, let me see if I can locate it here. That capacitor, they managed. So right here, the via that comes through to that capacitor is actually part of this ground plane. And on this board, that via actually misses the ground plane. So if you were to pull this little solder blob, you'll see that that via goes nowhere. So they had to jump that via to the ground plane. Let me just pull the board here off the repair pile and see what they did there. Yep, so there's one there. So this is another example. You can see the flux. You can see where they soldered the via to the ground plane. And if you were to pull that solder blob, you'll see that that via is not connected to ground. So if you pull that off, fire this up, you'll have 3 to 500 hertz on the output section. But that's a repair board. So that's what I wanted to go over with you guys to help understand where you're getting this 3 to 500 hertz output on these CAB22s. That capacitor may not be grounded. And again, guys, please make sure you keep your fingers out of the rails. I just want to make sure it's discharged before I set this aside. Yeah. Okay. Please keep your fingers safe. Keep them out of the rails, and keep yourself, have a great, fantastic, safe day. And, of course, guys, if you have any questions, please leave them down below, and I will get to them as soon as I can for you. And as always, thank you for watching. We'll catch you on the next video.